We're continuing our conversation now with Jennifer Houston, Chair of the Federation, and Todd Johnson, Vice President of Federation Services. We speak often of the grassroots involvement, and I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about how programs are actually funded and ultimately evaluated. Jennifer?
Our process actually starts in January with an industry scan where we bring in our committee leadership, and these advisory committees are made up of 10 members from the Cattlemen's Beef Board, which are producers, 10 members from the Federation of State Beef Councils, which are members of their state beef council. We listen to an industry scan and we make plans for how our committees are going to meet at our annual meeting. Then at our annual meeting, we come together, we listen to we reinforce this information we found out from the industry scan. We set priorities and we give these back to our contractors such as MEF, NCBA, Farm Bureau, and others, and after which they're going to formulate their authorization requests. They'll bring those back to these advisory committees at the summer conference. We'll evaluate them, we'll score them, we'll give feedback, and then they bring these authorization requests onto the operating committee in September, which again is made up of producers, 10 members from the Cattlemen's Beef Board and 10 members from the Federation of State Beef Councils.
Sounds like a rigorous process. Take us to the backside of that process. How are the projects evaluated?
Yeah, evaluation is a huge component of all the checkoff programming. As Jennifer pointed out, producers set the direction and then contractors build a plan based on that direction. So one component of those plans is measurable evaluation. If the program says we're going to engage a certain number of influencers or we're going to deliver a certain number of scientific research projects, those authorization requests are evaluated based on the ability to achieve what they said they would do. So that's done through a very systematic process. It's also then evaluated by an evaluation committee. So we're all about having committees look at these things, and as Jennifer has alluded to, producers set on all those committees. So evaluation at the back end of the projects is critical before the next year's projects start to be looked at.
And speaking of evaluation and results, there's recently been a study that would indicate there's a tremendous return on investment for producers' checkoff dollars. Is that right?
Absolutely. The Cattlemen's Beef Board commissioned a study by a third-party researcher at a major land-grant university to look at the checkoff over the time period of 2006 to 2013 to see how efficient and effective we've been. And his research shows that for every dollar invested in the beef checkoff, we're getting an $11.20 return on our investment, which is absolutely tremendous. In addition, his research showed that without the current checkoff programs in place, we would have beef demand at 11.3% less than it is today. So we feel good.
That's very good. You know, people that may not be involved in this process oftentimes wonder about the safeguards that are in place and, you know, how these dollars are spent, what kind of oversight is being provided. Give us a little bit of the firewalls that you speak of.
I think it's important for producers to realize that all checkoff programming at the national level is done on a cost recovery basis. That means that if you're a contractor, such as the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, you might propose a project that's going to cost $1 million. That does not mean you get $1 million check up front. That means that your program has to be implemented, and then upon completion, reports turned in, receipts verified, etc., and you're only reimbursed for the actual cost of the project. So in that regard, there's a good safeguard. Producers should feel good about that. The second part is checkoff programs are only used in a limited scope. That means they can only be used in the areas established by the law, which is research, promotion, education, and clearly excluded from that is any government influence or lobbying. The third part of this is what we as individual contractors do, and that is verification of our time, our expenses, the engagement that we have to get our projects done. So there's several safeguards in place, and one of those big ones we talk about at our organization is the firewall. A firewall is really just a sophisticated set of accounting principles that track not only staff time and resources, but also hard costs, such as expenditures made to an advertising agency or a research university who's conducting research on behalf of the checkoff.
So Jennifer, as a producer, I mean, do you feel comfortable that these safeguards are actually working?
I absolutely do. With all these safeguards in place, I think our checkoff dollars are being spent effectively, efficiently, and under the law. But in addition to what Todd said, there's also 3 different audit processes they go through. They have independent auditors, they have CBB auditors, and they have USDA auditors. So therefore, I feel very confident, and so should all of our producers, that our dollars are being spent the way they were meant to be spent.
Well, this is a very insightful conversation. I'm certain that lots of folks can benefit from getting just a little more insight into how this all works internally. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
From growing beef demand to protecting the business climate for producers, the two divisions of NCBA are working to build a better future for the beef industry. You can lend your support to this effort by becoming an NCBA member. To join, just call 1-866-USA-BEEF or go online to the website beefusa.org.